Hey everyone, welcome back. Hope you're having a fantastic day so far. So last month, of course, we had that huge debate going on between Democrats and Republicans over raising the debt ceiling and how many spending cuts, if any, should be made. And a lot of us got pretty worried that they weren't going to be able to raise the debt ceiling in time. And of course, that would cause us to default on our debts, which a lot of people may not have really cared a whole lot about that. But what the primary worry was about those Social Security benefits, is the payments going out on a timely manner. There were different experts saying they would definitely probably be delayed, but nobody really knew how long the checks would be delayed by. Would they be delayed by 1 day? Would it be 2 days? Would it be a week, 2 weeks, a month? Nobody really knew how long they would be delayed by, and that put a lot of a scare into a lot of us, rightfully so. And thankfully, we never had to find out because they finally did reach an agreement, and President Biden signed that bill into law earlier on this month to avert a government shutdown. Well, now, even though we went ahead and raised the debt ceiling, we actually have a new scare, and this scare is going to be going on over the next few months. It's going to have a lot of people on Social Security worried. So we're going to be discussing what that is and hopefully dismissing some of those worries that's probably going to be going on. But before we go ahead and dive into the main content of today's video, if you wouldn't mind helping me out real quickly by just giving this video a like, that just helps out with the good old YouTube algorithm, and also consider subscribing to my channel if you have not already. Okay, so as I just mentioned, of course, earlier on this month, President Biden did sign that bill into law, which ended up raising the debt ceiling. Now, of course, to come to that agreement, Democrats and Republicans had to do quite a bit of negotiating. Of course, both sides believe they either got the good end of the deal or the bad end of the deal, depending where they stood within their own party. But one of those agreements actually ended up being to freeze whatever we spent for fiscal year 2023 from September of last year until September 30th of this year, to freeze the spending right there. However, a lot of Republicans in the House actually wanted to move the spending back to what we spent in 2022 in fiscal year 2022. Biden and Democrats did not want to push the spending back to 2022 levels. They wanted to keep it at 2023. And in the end, that's what they ended up doing, was freezing it at 2023 rather than increasing it once again for 2024. But of course, now they have to have all these appropriation bills passed. They have 12 different appropriation bills that need to pass in order to avert a government shutdown, and they need to pass those bills by September 30th. Now, that is 3.5 months away, which may seem like a long time, but you know how Congress works. It works very slowly. They are definitely not ahead of the game. They love to procrastinate. They love to push things off to the very last second. And just like the debt ceiling bill, this is something they might do as well. So, of course, we have a lot of House Republicans say they want to move back spending, cut spending even more than what was agreed to in the debt ceiling bill. And they say that if McCarthy goes ahead and moves spending to what they agreed to, they might actually try to remove him from his speakership. So, obviously, we have a lot of debate going on. And right now we have Democrats controlling the Senate, Republicans controlling the House. So it's going to be very difficult for Republicans and Democrats to agree to different spending levels. And if they don't agree to different spending levels, there's actually going to be, I guess, automatic cuts of 1% take place. And of course, if they're not able to do this and we have a government shutdown, that has a lot of people worried whether or not Social Security payments will continue to go out. So we're going to be discussing that in today's video. But according to Roll Call, Jeffries, GOP is driving us towards a government shutdown. So the top House Democrat on Thursday warned some Republicans are, quote, driving us towards a government shutdown, and called the majority's most conservative bloc, quote, irresponsible individuals. Some House Freedom Caucus members and their far-right allies last week shut down the chamber floor after opposing a rule for several bills they supported over frustrations about the debt and spending deal Speaker Kevin McCarthy reached with President Joe Biden. The 11 rebels relented Monday evening, but not before the Speaker agreed to craft most fiscal 2024 appropriation bills at fiscal 2022 spending levels. Senate appropriators intend to write their versions of the same bill to spending caps set by the McCarthy-Biden deal at fiscal 2023 levels. the possibility that conservatives would move to boot McCarthy from the speakership if he seeks to send Biden bills that spend more than 2022 top lines is prompting government shutdown fears. Quote, "We're going to see how the Appropriations Committee ends in terms of its process, and it's our view that a resolution was reached and was voted on in a bipartisan way," Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries said of the McCarthy-Biden debt and spending package. He said, quote, "And at the end of the day, any spending agreement that is arrived at by the end of the year has to be consistent with the resolution of the default process. Otherwise, what was it all for? Why did we try avoiding a default to make sure that America pays its bills with a top-line spending agreement? What was it all for? Because now all we're engaging in is right-wing theater designed to jam extreme, painful cuts down the throats of the American people. And Democrats will not let it happen." So you can see we have a lot of insults going both ways here, and ultimately what this is going to end into is both sides arguing, bickering, and not really negotiating in a fair manner. And again, if that happens and they're not able to reach an agreement, then, government shutdown is most definitely possible. So the article goes on to say, but the conservative bloc and other House Republicans see a major federal spending addiction. Some House GOP members who expressed frustrations with the rebels also said this week that McCarthy should have pressed Biden harder to ensure their compromise package actually cut spending rather than mostly holding it stable. Representative Nancy Mace said Tuesday the deal the speaker cut with the president was, quote, "a bunch of BS." I mean, seriously, if you say you're going to make a cut, then make them put it in writing, the South Carolina Republican said in a brief interview. And this bill was not a cut. And so what I think is, if I'm correct, they'll go through the appropriations process, and then in the Senate, and it'll come back and it won't be what we said it was going to be. It certainly creates a problem. Jeffries looks at some Republicans and sees members for whom shutting down the government is in their DNA. He said Thursday, calling them, quote, "irresponsible individuals." They don't care about government. And so what we see right now taking place in the appropriations process is perhaps an effort by some extreme MAGA Republicans to drive us towards a government shutdown. And that's a shame. So again, we have this issue where a lot of House Republicans want even more spending cuts in these bills in order to avoid a government shutdown. And of course, Democrats don't want to have any more spending cuts. They want to go with what was agreed to in the debt ceiling agreement. So of course, we're going to have the Senate crafting up their own bill for the different appropriations process. And again, the Senate is headed by Democrats. We have Democrats with a slim majority. And then from the House, they're going to have their own bill. This bill is going to be made up pretty much by Republicans. So according to The Hill, Senate Democrats ready for a spending fight with House GOP. So Senate Democrats are gearing up for a spending fight with House Republicans as negotiators in the upper chamber prepare to mark up government funding bills in the days ahead. Senate negotiators are expected to unveil funding legislation in the coming days, with plans to begin considering proposals over the next week as the annual appropriations season starts to heat up. Quote, "It will be very difficult," Senate Majority Whip Dick Durbin, who is also an appropriator, told The Hill of challenges Congress will face in averting a shutdown this year. Quote, "We've got to agree to our agreements and stick with it." So obviously, a lot of members on both sides of the aisle think that a government shutdown is definitely possible, and this has actually happened in the past. And of course, like pretty much any other year, it's going to have a lot of people worried about, the potential consequences of a government shutdown, whether or not it will impact them. And of course, we're going to have a lot of talk around whether or not Social Security beneficiaries will be impacted. Just like the debt ceiling, they were saying that the checks could be delayed in going out, whether it was a day, a week, 2 weeks, a month, nobody really knew. And of course, with this government shutdown, a lot of people are going to be worried as well, and rightfully so. Like, are these checks going to be sent out on time? Are they going to be delayed? What's going to be happening? A lot of confusion is going to be around this. You might see a lot of misinformation, but hopefully I can dismiss some of that misinformation and kind of, lower those fears that are going to be going on. So we can see right here up on the screen, we have a site from the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget. Q&A, everything you should know about government shutdown. So we're going to start out here with Social Security and Medicare. So they make very clear here that the checks are going to be sent out, but benefit verifications as well as card issuance would cease. So if you're looking for a Social Security card to be sent to you in the mail, if you lost yours, or perhaps if you have a newborn and you're looking for your Social Security card to go out for your newborn, those will be delayed, but your checks, as they mentioned here very, very clearly, they should continue to go out on time. That means that if you're expecting to receive your check on the second Wednesday of the month, or for SSI benefits, if you're beneficiaries, if you're expected to receive your payment on the first of the month, those should be delivered on time. There should not be a delay in those payments. You are definitely, or you should, at least according to the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget, these should go out on time. And I would definitely not worry about any type of delay like there was with the debt ceiling. This is definitely going to be different. Now, for those of you who receive SNAP benefits, this could be a little bit different, as they do mention here that though funding for the SNAP program is mandatory, the ability to send out food stamp benefits could be affected by a shutdown, since continuing resolutions have generally only authorized the Department of Agriculture to send out benefits for 30 days after a shutdown begins. During the 2018 to 2019 shutdown, the USDA paid February SNAP benefits early on January 20th, just before the 30-day window ended, but it would have been unable to pay March benefits had the shutdown continued. So if we end up having a prolonged shutdown and you're receiving SNAP benefits, it's very possible that those could end up being delayed or you may not receive them. So that could be the real issue. But for Social Security beneficiaries, your payments should be going out as normal on time. And we actually have a precedent set for that. So back in 1996 and 2013, there were shutdowns, but Social Security checks continued to roll out and they were on time. So I would not worry about this, even though we may see a lot of articles pop up in the future saying that payments might be delayed or may not go out. We're going to have a lot of fear stemming around from all this, but I'll definitely make sure to keep all of you guys updated. But that's all the news that I have for today's video. I certainly hope that you enjoyed. If you did, again, I would greatly appreciate it if you could give this video a like. Consider subscribing to my channel if you have not already, and I will see you in the next video.